This video introduces a story based on a true story that at first glance seems like an urban legend, but has a deep lesson. The story follows three boys whose lives change forever when their curiosity leads them into a restricted area. From this story, learn the mystery of a forbidden place and the scary truth hidden there. Well then, it's the beginning. When I was in elementary and junior high school, I lived in the countryside and was ignorant of the world. And my three best friends, A and B, used to make fun of each other every day and lived a rough life. Me and A were completely abandoned by our families, but B's mother always took care of us. Although he had a strict attitude, he was doing all sorts of things for B. One day, when B and her son were in third grade, they got into a pretty heated fight. Although she didn't say what happened, it seems like she mentally hurt her mother. When I was hurting her mother, her father came back. The father, who understood the situation at a glance, ignored B and silently approached the mother. Her clothes and hair were in tatters, and when her mother saw her staring blankly at the floor with the eyes of a dead fish, her father told B, "Father B, you've become such a person that you can trample on people. Why can't you understand how much your mother loves you?" Apparently, B's father didn't look at her and was talking to her while hugging her mother. "B, don't make a fuss. Shall I kill you? Huh?" B had no interest in listening to the story at all. However, my father didn't seem to react at all and seemed to just continue talking indifferently. "Father B, do you really think that you have nothing to fear?" B, "Hey, if you have it, I'd love for you to show it to me." Dad was silent for a moment. Then he spoke. "Father B, you're my son. I know how much your mother worries about you. But if all you can do is trample on your mother like this, I don't have any ideas. B, I say this not as a father, but as a human being, a stranger. First of all, let me say this clearly. The fact that I'm telling you this is proof that I'm prepared to die. If that's okay with you, listen." He seemed to sense some sort of tremendous force in those words, but he encouraged her by saying, "Okay, just talk. Father B, you know a place in the forest that's off limits. Go in there and go deeper. You'll know the rest as you go. Then go wild like you are now. If only I could do it." The forest that my father refers to is a place at the foot of a small mountain where we live. It's like a sea of trees. You can enter the mountain itself normally, and the forest as a whole is normal. But once you get inside, there are areas that are off limits. In other words, it's like drawing a small circle inside a square and trying to fit inside the circle, so it's extremely partial. It is surrounded by a fence nearly 2 meters high, with thick ropes and barbed wire, strings of white paper tangled all over the fence like a unique paper tape, and countless bells of various sizes attached to it. Due to the strange partial structure, the alignment of the fence itself is distorted, and all I can say is that it's not normal. Also, on certain days, I would see several shrine maidens gathered at the entrance, but since the entire area is off limits on those days, it was a mystery what they were doing. There were various rumors flying around, but the most widespread rumor was that there was a cult brainwashing facility. In the first place, it was a hassle to get to that point, so so there were hardly any stories of people going that far. Without waiting for B's reply, her father took her mother and went upstairs. B left the house and met up with me and A, who were waiting for us, so we also listened to the story. A: It's quite surprising for my father to say that much. Me: Rumor has it that he's a cult leader. I wonder if he'll be captured and brainwashed. I'm scared, but what are we going to do? Are we going? B: I guess you've decided to go. It's your father's fault anyway. Just for fun, A and I followed, and the three of us headed there. I had prepared all sorts of tools, and it was probably a little after midnight. I arrived at the scene in high spirits and headed into the forest, illuminating my path with the flashlight I had brought with me. It's a path that can be navigated even with light clothing, and since we were always wearing jikatabi, it was easy to walk, but we still had to walk about 40 minutes to get to the point in question. However, within 5 minutes of entering, something strange happened. At about the same time we entered and started walking, we started hearing some noises from far away. The silence of the night accentuates the sounds. B was the first to notice. B: Hey, can you hear something? When I listened to B's words, I did hear them. The sound of rustling fallen leaves and the sound of branches snapping. I can hear it faintly from far away, partly because it was so far away and so faint. I didn't feel that scared. Before you think of people, there are animals. With that in mind, I went ahead regardless. After thinking that it was an animal, I stopped paying attention to it. But after about 20 minutes, B noticed something again and stopped me and A. B: A, just take a walk for a while. A: Oh, why? B: Okay, hurry up. A curiously walked forward by himself and then came back towards me. Seeing this, B looked thoughtful. A: Hey, what is it? Me: Explain. When we said that, B said, Be quiet and listen carefully, and walked forward by himself, just as A had done, and then came back to us. After repeating this 2 or 3 times, we finally noticed it. The faint sounds coming from far away matched our movements. When we start walking, the sound starts walking. And when we stop, the sound stops too. It was like he knew what was going on here. I couldn't help but feel something cool in the air. There is no light around us other than the one we have. The moon was out, but it was obscured by the trees, making it almost meaningless. I've got a flashlight on, so it's no wonder I can see where I am. However, it was so dark that even those of us walking together had to strain our eyes to see each other. What are you doing in the dark without any light? Why are you acting like us? B: Don't be silly. Is someone tailing us? A: There's no sign that they're getting close. They've been in the same position since a while ago. As A said, the distance between us and the sound hadn't changed at all in the 20 minutes since we entered the forest. It's not coming closer or going away. They remained the same distance from beginning to end. Me: Are you being watched? A: That's kind of what it sounds like. If it's a cult, it seems like they have some sort of strange device. Judging from the sound, it seemed like one person was sticking to us the whole time, not multiple people. After stopping for a while and thinking about it, decided that it would be dangerous to try to find out who it really was. So I decided to keep my eyes peeled and move on. From then on, I continued to follow the sounds. But when I finally saw the fence, I no longer cared about them. The appearance of the fence was even more incomprehensible than the sound. It was my first time seeing all three of them, and it was more than I expected. At the same time, an idea that had never occurred to me before crossed my mind. Even for those of us who usually make fun of spirits, I can only think that this suggests that what lies ahead is not real. That's not bad at all. I wonder if it's a place of excitement in that sense. For the first time since I entered the forest, I started to think that we were in a dangerous place. Hey, are you going to break this and go deeper? No matter who sees it, it's not normal. B, don't be so annoying, don't be so nervous, I yelled at A and I, who were frightened by the strange appearance of the fence, and B started smashing it down with all the tools he had brought with him. Even more amazing than the sound of destruction was the sound of the countless bells ringing. However, I hadn't imagined it would go this far, so the tools I brought with me were too weak. In fact, it was unnaturally sturdy. It didn't budge, as if they were using special materials. In the end, I had no choice but to climb up. But thanks to the rope, it was fairly easy to climb up. However, as soon as I crossed the fence, I felt a strong sense of discomfort. I guess you could call it a feeling of confinement. I felt like I was stuck in a cage, and it was hard to breathe. It seemed that A and B were the same, so I hesitated to step forward. But now that I had climbed over the fence, I had no choice but to go. All three noticed this as soon as they started walking forward. The sound that had been following me for so long was no longer audible after I crossed the fence. Honestly, the atmosphere was so disgusting that I thought it didn't matter anymore. But the words A said made the atmosphere even more disgusting. A, could it be that he's been here the whole time? There's no entrance or exit from what you can see from this fence. So I guess that's why he couldn't get close. B, that doesn't make any sense. Even where we noticed the movement of the sound, we can't see it from here anymore, right? And yet, there's no way we can tell what's going on from the moment we enter. If you think about it normally, B's words were correct. The forbidden area and the entrance to the forest are quite far apart. I wrote that it was about 40 minutes, but it wasn't like we were just walking. So if we were to calculate the distance, it would be a reasonable number. However, because I mistakenly thought that it might not be real, I couldn't deny A's words in my head. B was the only one who was suddenly bullish, while I and A were starting to feel like this was definitely not going to happen after seeing the fence. B, I don't know if it's a spirit or something, but if that's what you say, then that means it can't get out of this fence, right? That's no big deal. After saying that, he went inside. After crossing the fence, I walked for about 20 to 30 minutes, and just as I was starting to see the fence on the other side, I noticed something strange. Shimenawa ropes were strung around 6 specific trees, and the 6 trees were tied together with 6 ropes to create a hexagonal space. In addition to the one hanging on the fence, there was also a formal-looking paper hanging. And in the center, there was something that looked like an offering box. The moment they saw it, all 3 of them were speechless. and A in particular were even worried that things were getting really bad. Even idiots like me have some idea of where and for what purpose Shimenawa is usually used. In that sense, the reason why this place is off limits is definitely because of this scene in front of us. We've finally come as far as we've come. Me, this is probably what your father was talking about. A, it's impossible to go wild. It's obviously dangerous. However, B did not lose his bullish stance. B, it's not necessarily something bad. Let's just take a look at that box. It might contain some treasure. B passed through the rope and entered the hexagon, approaching the box. AI and I were more worried about what B would do than the box, but we followed B anyway. The box was covered in rust, probably because it had been left out in the open and exposed to the rain. The top has a lid, and you can see inside through the mesh. However, there was another board under the lid, so I couldn't see it. What's more, on the box, there was something written on it that said it was amazing. Maybe a family crest? I think it's something like that, but there are many crest-like markings written on each side of the front, back, left, and right. And they're all different. There wasn't a single duplicate. A and I tried our best not to touch it, and even B, who was willing to touch it, warned us not to be too rough with it as we examined the box. Apparently, the bottom was fixed directly to the ground, so although it didn't feel very heavy, I couldn't lift it. When I checked every corner to see how I could see what was inside, I noticed that only the backside could be removed. B, oh, this is the only part that will come off. You can see inside. B removed one side of the box, and A and I looked inside from behind B. Inside the box, there are pots shaped like pet bottles in the four corners. There was some kind of liquid inside. In the center of the box, there was a toothpick about 5 centimeters in size, with the tip painted red, placed in a strange shape. 6 pieces like this. Only the 4 areas that touch are painted red. Me, what is this, a toothpick? A, hey, look at the pet bottle. There's something inside. It doesn't feel good. B, you came all this way with a pet bottle and a toothpick. I don't understand. Me and A only briefly touched the jar that looked like a pet bottle, but B picked it up and sniffed it. When I put it back together, he reaches out his hand to touch. A yes. However, because he was sweating, it stuck to his fingertips for a moment, which caused the shape to shift when he let go. That moment, cheerin', cheerin', tin, 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 the bell rang with tremendous force from the direction of the fence that was faintly visible beyond the hexagon, opposite to where we had come from. As expected, all 3 of them let out a wow and looked at each other in shock. B, who are you to blame? Don't be silly. B started running in that direction. Me, you idiot, don't go there. A, hey B, it's dangerous. When I panicked and prepared to follow him, B suddenly stopped and remained motionless, pointing his flashlight ahead. What is it? Are you pretending? A and I rushed toward him, and B's body began to tremble little by little. Oh, hey, what happened? As I said this, I unconsciously looked at the place where the light was shining. B's flashlight was shining on one of the trees near its base. A woman's face was peeking out from behind it. She just popped out half of her face and looked at us without any glare. She opened her mouth, exposing her upper and lower teeth, and her eyes were fixed. Wow! At the same time as we heard a scream that we didn't know who it came from, we all turned around and ran. My mind was blank, and it felt like my body was doing what was best on its own. Without having time to look at each other, each of them frantically headed towards the fence. When it sees a fence, it jumps at once and quickly climbs up. When I reached the top, I jumped off again and immediately tried to return to the entrance. However, perhaps because he was confused, A was not able to climb the fence properly and did not come towards me. Me, A, hurry! B, hey, hurry up! While waiting for A, B, and I didn't know what to do. Me, what is that? What is that? B, I don't know, shut up. I was in a complete panic. At that time, Sheeran, tin tin tin. The bell rang so loudly that the fence began to shake. What? Where did it come from? Even though I and B were in a state of panic, we checked our surroundings. The sound was coming from the direction of the mountain, opposite to the entrance, and the sound and fence were shaking more and more violently, as if it was getting closer. Me, oh no, B, not yet, hurry up! I knew that our words were making A even more confused, but I couldn't help but hurry. I desperately tried to climb the fence. Just as A was about to reach the top, B and I were not looking at each other. I was shaking. Sweat was pouring out all over my body, and I couldn't make a sound. I noticed this and looked in the direction we were looking from on top of the fence. Beyond the fence that ran in the direction of the mountain, he was stuck on this side. I thought it was just a face, but it turned out to be only the upper body, with 3 right and 3 left arms. With those things, it deftly grabbed the rope and barbed wire, and, with its mouth wide open, headed towards me like a spider crossing a web. Tremendous fear. Wow! A immediately jumped down from above and fell on me and B. At that, we were taken aback and immediately woke up A and ran towards the mouth at once. I can't see behind me. I ran as hard as I could, looking only ahead. It would have taken less than 30 minutes if I ran as fast as I could, but it felt like I had been running for hours. As the entrance came into view, I could see a figure. Hey, I couldn't believe it. All 3 of us suddenly stopped, took a breath, and looked around for someone. I don't know who it is, but several people are gathered. It's not him. As soon as I was able to confirm that, I started running again and jumped into the crowd. Hey, it's coming out! No way. Did you really go beyond that fence? Hey, hurry up and tell your wife. The people who had gathered were running towards us in a commotion. All 3 of them were so dazed that they didn't immediately realize what was being said to them. Just like that, we were loaded into a car and taken to a meeting hall used for events, even though it was already past 3 o'clock. When we went inside, we found our mother and older sister A's father and B's mother. Aside from B's mother, even my girlfriend's mother, whom she had never really talked to, was crying. And A said that the expression on her father's face at that moment was something he had never seen before. Mother B, I guess everyone was safe. I'm so glad. Unlike B's mother, I was beaten by her mother, and A was also beaten by her father. However, she received warm words that she had never heard before. After each of them had interacted with the family for a while, Bee's mother spoke. "Mother Bee, I'm sorry. This is my husband's responsibility, and by extension, my responsibility. I'm really sorry. I'm really..." She bowed her head again and again. Even though it was in a stranger's home, I still felt bad seeing my parents exposed like that in front of their children. Father A: "That's enough, ma'am. That's how everyone was safe." My mother: "That's right. It's not your fault." After this, the conversation was mostly between the parents, and we were left dumbfounded. It was late, so we just confirmed that everyone was okay, and that was it. At that time, they disbanded without any explanation. Around noon the next day, I was woken up by my sister. When I woke up, my sister's expression had become stiffer, as if it was a continuation of last night. Me: "What?" "Sister, Bee's mother called. Something terrible is going on." When I picked up the phone and answered the phone, he shouted in a loud voice, "Bee's mother. Bee is strange. What did you do there last night?" "I didn't just go over the fence." Thank you for watching. You can see the continuation of this in the second part of the video. This channel introduces fun, scary, and funny stories related to Japan every day. If you enjoyed this story, please click like and subscribe to the channel.